But just it's a woman's choice. Your choice is a baby's choice.
Two angry sides of the abortion controversy vow to fight on as justices issue an eve of Independence Day decision.
It's not a fetus, it's a human life. It's not a dog. It's not a...
The ruling allows new state restrictions to take some territory away from the landmark 1973 abortion ruling at the U.S. Supreme Court. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting tonight from the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington. Good evening. 3rd of July sizzler here at the U.S. Supreme Court today about abortion. On the eve of the national holiday that celebrates our unity and our differences, a ruling reflecting the deep divisions in the Supreme Court and in the nation. In today's ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court made it easier for states to restrict a woman's right to choose to have an abortion. Now, the justices stopped short of outright rolling back and reversing the landmark abortion ruling of 1973. But today's ruling here sets the stage for more decisions and debate on one of the most divisive and deeply felt social issues of our times. CBS News correspondent Rita Braver begins our coverage of the Supreme Court's new abortion ruling and its impact.
Underscoring the conflict within the Supreme Court was the conflict outside.
What do we want? Safe abortion! When do we want it? Now! Pro-life! Pro-life!
And in fact, it was the anti-abortion side which was gratified today. For a while, the Supreme Court stopped short of overturning the landmark Roe v. Wade decision, giving women the right to abortion. The justices allowed states to severely restrict that right. Specifically, the court upheld a Missouri law that, except in cases where it's necessary to save the mother's life, bans all abortions performed in public facilities and blocks public employees from performing or assisting in abortions, and allows the state to require doctors to perform viability studies, tests to say whether the fetus could survive outside the womb, on fetuses believed to be at least 20 weeks old before the doctors perform an abortion. And the court let stand the preamble to the law, which declares that life begins at conception.
Today's ruling signals the beginning of the end of legalized abortion in this country.
I do not think it's possible to either exaggerate or to minimize the tragic nature of what has occurred today.
The court majority included Justices Byron White, Sandra Day O'Connor, Antonin Scalia, and Anthony Kennedy. They joined with Chief Justice William Rehnquist. His majority opinion made clear that the court still prohibits laws as severe as the one involved in the original Roe v. Wade case, making all abortions criminal except when the mother's life was at stake. But he stated that today's decision would modify and narrow Roe. Justice Scalia, in fact, today said that Roe v. Wade should be overturned, and the other conservatives indicated that they're ready to do so if the right case comes along in the future. Justices Stevens, Brennan, Marshall, and Blackmun dissented, Blackmun reading his opinion from the bench. The decision implicitly invites every state legislature to enact more and more restrictive abortion regulations in order to provoke more and more test cases. He continued, "For today at least, the women of this nation still retain the liberty to control their destinies. But the signs are evident and very ominous, and a chill wind blows." And even as Missouri is getting ready to start enforcing its law, other states are bound to be thinking about how to enact their own versions of this law, Dan.
Rita, Sandra Day O'Connor, it was widely believed hers would be the decisive vote. Did it turn out that way?
Absolutely. She was the swing vote in this case, and she did not seem to want to go as far as the other justices who are thinking about overturning Roe versus Wade. She indicated that there might be a case coming down the road where she would do it, but it will take longer to convince her that that's the right case.
Thanks, Rita. Today's abortion decision here at the High Court is rippling and making waves throughout official Washington and beyond. CBS News correspondent Susan Spencer is here with a look at what may be among the most important testing grounds for abortion laws state by state. Susan?
Dan, in just the last 2 years at the state level, some 250 different bills on abortion have been introduced. But given today's nod from the Supreme Court, that could soon seem like nothing.
God bless America!
The 50 state capitals are the new battlegrounds now, and within hours of the ruling, the battles had been joined.
We would like the California legislature to follow what the Missouri legislature has done and go as far as possible to protect those children.
We invite the states and will be working with them to pass new legislation at the invitation of the court.
Some of that new legislation is likely to be even more restrictive than the Missouri law, as anti-abortion groups test the limits of the court's ruling.
They said, go further and go further until you present us unavoidably with a case where we have to explicitly overrule Roe.
When state lawmakers reconvene, anti-abortion groups will have their sights set chiefly on 9 states, seen as the most likely targets. Pro-choice groups will hope to hold the line in 9 others, where sentiment is equally strong to preserve a woman's choice. But the rest of the country is one big question mark, with the pro-choice movement now joining in the political hardball the other side has used so well for years.
Every person who stands for election in this country is going to have to answer, are you for the right of a woman to control her reproductive life? If you are not, move on over.
To politicians who oppose choice, we say, read our lips. Take our rights, lose your jobs.
But the court today announced that next term it will consider 3 other abortion cases, one of them brought by this Illinois clinic. The clinic is challenging state licensing rules that lower courts said make it nearly impossible to set up an abortion facility. It is this kind of laws that don't outlaw abortion but make it much more difficult, that worry the pro-choice side the most now. Laws, for example, requiring lengthy waiting periods, parental consent, anti-abortion counseling.
We are smiling, our thumbs are up, and we feel that a new era is dawning.
That new era could see a patchwork of laws around the country, potentially 50 different sets of rules and regulations in 50 different states. One side calls that democracy, Dan. The other side calls it chaos.
Susan Spencer, thanks. Joining me now to talk about the scope and meaning of today's abortion ruling here at the Supreme Court, CBS News consultant, Georgetown University law professor Paul Rothstein. Professor, from the welter of these decisions, what are the most important things for rank-and-file people to know?
Well, bottom line, this decision means that the time during which the states can regulate pregnancy and regulate abortion is moving back in the pregnancy earlier and earlier. And secondly, it means that state facilities, public facilities, cannot be used to aid or permit or have abortions. And public facilities means any hospital, even a private hospital that happens to be on public land or rents from public land. And it means that a private doctor can't do an abortion in such a hospital, even if the individual pays for it fully. So it has these restricting effects on the right to abortion.
And where is all this leading? Inevitably to overturning outright Roe versus Wade?
Well, I think that is the direction of the future. They went as far as they could to narrow Roe versus Wade without reading it off the books. And in the future, we'll watch with bated breath to see if it disappears entirely.
In a few seconds, does that mean you believe that it will be written off the books?
Unless the justices see all sides of it in the future as new cases come up, their current thinking will lead them in that direction.
Professor Rothstein, thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I'll be back in a moment with our latest poll on abortion rights and more on this historic last day of the U.S. Supreme Court's term. So stick here with us.
Life without cholesterol. I mean, how much lettuce can one man endure? Give up the best things in life. What's left?
New Miracle Whip cholesterol-free dressing. Same tangy zip as Miracle Whip and absolutely no cholesterol. So you get all the taste and none of the cholesterol.
I do?
New Miracle Whip cholesterol-free. Now the best things in life are cholesterol-free.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're about to see what it feels like to have a sinus headache. An invisible force pressing against your nasal passages. A painful pressure building up behind your eyes. And to help take this pressure and pain away, there's new Contact Sinus Formula. Nothing you can buy relieves the pressure and pain better, and it won't make you drowsy. New Contact Sinus Formula. Until there's a cure, there's Contact.
What's in the spoon?
100% natural.
Better get a grip. It takes 16 spoons to equal the vitamin and mineral nutrition in just 1 spoon of Total. Spoon for spoon, that's more nutrition than any other cereal.
1 spoon. Nice fit.
Terry's family loves olive oil, but they could do without the excess fat and calories. So Terry, meet Pam. New olive oil Pam. It adds about 90% less fat and calories.
President Bush, through his chief of staff, applauded today's Supreme Court decision, but only as a starting point for rolling back Roe versus Wade entirely. White House correspondent Wyatt Andrews is in Maine, where President Bush is spending the holiday weekend.
President Bush welcomed today's decision, but did not interrupt his vacation to say so himself. He sent Chief of Staff John Sununu to praise the court for moving toward the reversal of Roe versus Wade, saying the court had begun to restore protection to the unborn.
The basic thrust of the Roe v. Wade decision ought to be reversed, and he is pleased at any step, including this one, that moves in the right direction.
What the president liked specifically was the court's promise to hear further attacks on Roe versus Wade, while in the meantime virtually inviting the states to control abortions themselves.
This decision made it clear that the states have some rights in limiting the easy access to abortion.
Sununu insists that the president still supports a constitutional amendment banning abortion, but it's clear Mr. Bush will not attack abortion with the same fervor he brought to the amendment to ban desecration of the flag. The flag issue last week drew the president's personal attention, even down to the drafting of the amendment. Today,
let's go about our business of recreating.
We thought you'd have strong feelings about it, sir.
I have strong feelings, and the statement will reflect that.
The White House claims Mr. Bush is not just reading the opinion polls, and yet the president's level of public commitment reflects what the polls say. Specifically, 70% public approval of Mr. Bush's flag amendment, but divided public opinion on abortion. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Kennebunkport, Maine.
A new CBS News poll on abortion out this evening. Our nationwide poll of more than 1,200 people taken last Monday through Thursday before today's ruling here at the court indicates there may be wide approval for states imposing major restrictions on abortions. However, almost 3 out of 4 of the people we polled also indicated that they oppose any outright ban on abortions. Our poll's margin of error is 3 points up or down. Not reflected in the polls, of course, the passion and depth of feeling with many Americans for and against abortion, for and against today's ruling. Correspondent Richard Schlesinger has been tracking that part of the story.
This is what frightens the pro-choice movement. It is 1965. A woman is making her way secretly to the back alley for an abortion. This documentary portrayed what it was like to get an illegal abortion.
The doctor came out and asked how I felt. I said I was scared, but I felt fine. And he said, I'm sorry, you have to be treated like a criminal.
But anti-abortion activists believe it is a crime to have an abortion and predict the court will soon agree.
I am convinced Roe will fall by the end of this presidential term, and child killing will be driven back to hell where it came from.
I think it's real scary. I mean, I'm 17 years old. I've never known a time when abortion was illegal.
Abortion rights activists across the country today were haunted by the past and frightened of the future.
We started getting calls at 9 o'clock this morning saying, can you do my abortion today, now, before they make it illegal?
Rich women will always be able to get abortions.
For the past 16 years, since Roe versus Wade, poor women have been able to get abortions at taxpayer expense in public hospitals like this one. Today's ruling gives states the right to stop paying.
I have a baby, and he's only 6 months, and I messed up, but I just can't take care of another one, not right now anyway.
Planned Parenthood may help you.
At the Planned Parenthood Clinic in Monmouth, New Jersey, they do 1,200 abortions every year. The cost, $275. If needed, the state pays $104 of that. New Jersey is one of 9 states that helps pay for abortions.
What's my sign say? You can't read English?
In 3 persons.
Thousands of anti-abortion protesters have stolen headlines over the years, choosing to go to jail to show their outrage over abortion.
The irony is that they have not stopped anyone from having an abortion.
But the National Right to Life movement has become a potent political force. By contrast, abortion advocates have been quiet until recently when they staged a mass rally in Washington. Still, the anti-abortion movement appears to have time on its side. The soldiers in this war are dug in for a long fight. Richard Schlesinger, CBS News, New York.
All brand, part of your health kick?
Yeah, helps ensure I get enough fiber.
Each morning, Tracy Reed takes out some fiber insurance with Kellogg's All Bran, concentrated fiber that can help her meet the National Cancer Institute's guidelines for a high-fiber, low-fat diet. A diet some studies suggest may reduce the risks of certain forms of cancer.
Oh, you're crazy to worry about stuff like that.
And I'd be crazy not to.
Kellogg's All Bran. Make it your daily fiber policy.
I knew it was for real, but I never thought I was going to win.
If you never thought you could win the Publishers Clearinghouse Sweepstakes, think again, because your chances to win millions are on the way. You could win $10 million. Watch your mail for this house and enter the Publishers Clearinghouse Sweepstakes right away. On August 3rd, you could be our next millionaire.
Real people win. I'm one of them.
Not this much. Not this much. Just this much. New Advanced Formula Kaopectate works fast to relieve diarrhea and cramps. And it tastes better, too. New Advanced Formula Kaopectate. More than ever, the diarrhea specialist.
The day may come when every cooktop, range, and oven will let you clean up this easily. But isn't it nice to know Whirlpool cooktops, ranges, and ovens will let you do it today?
Abortion wasn't the only issue to come up in today's rulings here at the U.S. Supreme Court. CBS News correspondent Bruce Morton reports now on the court's latest thinking about how and where to draw the line separating church and state.
A divided, quarrelsome Supreme Court ruled today that displaying this nativity scene in Pittsburgh's Allegheny County Courthouse was unconstitutional. But this menorah down the street at the city-county building was okay. The reasons go back to an earlier case in which the court ruled 5-4 that this creche in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, did not violate the Constitution's ban on government endorsement of religion. That's because the Rhode Island nativity scene was surrounded by secular Christmas symbols, a tree, candles, and so on. The display in today's ruling stood alone under a banner, "Glory to God in the highest." Justice Blackmun wrote, "This praise to God in Christian terms is indisputably religious."
They focused on such things as the fact that there was an angel above the nativity scene that held a banner that said "Glory in Excelsis Deo."
The menorah, on the other hand, stood next to a Christmas tree and a statement from the mayor celebrating liberty. Its display was ruled constitutional, 6-3. Justice O'Connor wrote it conveyed a message of pluralism and belief in freedom during the holiday season.
Thank God for the Supreme Court.
Outside or in, government has no business endorsing religious symbols.
4 justices thought both religious displays were constitutional. Justice Kennedy, for them, said the anti-creche decision showed an unjustified hostility toward religion. 3 justices thought neither display was constitutional, leaving O'Connor and Blackmun as the swing votes. Some observers saw a nitpicky decision.
And the separation of church and state lost because the state is still allowed to endorse religious symbols as long as it follows the advice of the interior decorators in the Supreme Court.
So the court ruled narrowly today on this one case. It remains bitterly divided on the basic issue. Dan?
Thanks, Bruce. And I'll be back with today's other news in a moment.
Getting out and enjoying yourself. That's what life is all about. And it's easy when you have the best bladder control protection. Depend Undergarments has special layers of absorbency that won't bunch or sag, and elastic legs for a better fit. They're the best protection and the best way for you to get back into life. Hey!
Get back into life with Depend.
The finer things. Happily, some are affordable, like Grey Poupon Dijon mustard, Grey Poupon has the classic quality of the original French Dijon recipe created centuries ago. A distinctively delicious taste for meats, salad dressings, and sauces. So enjoy one of life's finer pleasures.
Pardon, messieurs, est-ce que vous avez du Grey Poupon?
Mais bien sûr. Grey Poupon, one of life's finer pleasures.
The pain is in the back of the head, and like I say, in the temples, and it'll pound. Being a fireman is stressful, so I'd say stress could bring that on real easily.
Today, Jim Dane is trying extra-strength Tylenol gel caps. For pain like his, why take aspirin or ibuprofen when nothing works better than Tylenol gel caps?
I feel great. Yeah. I feel back to normal, ready to go. It's gone.
Extra-strength Tylenol gel caps. In the real world of everyday pain, nothing works better.
The U.S. Embassy in Beijing filed a protest with the Chinese government today over an incident last month when soldiers fired into a diplomatic compound. No one was hurt, but the U.S. protest said the barrage was clearly aimed at apartments of American diplomats. China denies that, claiming the troops were firing at a sniper. The Communist Party and government agents in Beijing may have captured one of their most wanted fugitives, student leader Wang Dan. Sources say he was talking to a reporter in Beijing yesterday when they noticed their car was being followed. Wang Dan hasn't been seen since. President Bush today called on the Soviet Union to withdraw its troops from Poland. In an interview with Polish journalists, he said the estimated 50,000 Soviet troops in Poland are not needed because there is no danger of invasion by the West. The president travels next week to Poland and Hungary. He said he is not going there to compete with Gorbachev, but to encourage political and economic reforms.
Andrei Gromyko was known as the Iceman of the Cold War. At Yalta, he sat advising Stalin as the fate of post-war Europe was determined. Raising the Berlin Wall, the Cuban Missile Crisis, as well as the development of détente occurred during Gromyko's 26 years as foreign minister. As a party loyalist, Gromyko justified the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan with the same ease that he explained crushing reform movements in East Europe decades before. As his country's first representative to the UN, Gromyko became famous as Mr. Niet for casting so many vetoes. Behind an inscrutable poker face, Gromyko was a master diplomat and tough-as-nails negotiator. Gorbachev had little need for the old war horse. Gromyko was eased into the largely ceremonial post of president and then forced into retirement last fall. Today, Mikhail Gorbachev asked the Soviet parliament to pause for a moment of silence in memory of the single most influential diplomat in Soviet history. Jonathan Sanders, CBS News, Moscow.
We are broadcasting live from the Supreme Court today because of the decisions, and so what you saw there and heard, Jonathan Sanders on the death of Andrei Gromyko and a look back at Gromyko's life. In this country, character actor Jim Backus, the pompous millionaire marooned on Gilligan's Island and the voice of cartoon character Mr. Magoo, died today in Santa Monica, California. Jim Backus, who was 76, suffered from Parkinson's disease for years and died of pneumonia. David Browning reports.
Hello, my name is Magoo. Who's in charge here?
The voice was one of the most famous and well-used in Hollywood. Jim Backus played not only the nearsighted Mr. Magoo, but scores of other cartoon characters.
Asset. Greenbacks. Must be a fortune in legal tender.
And if he was never quite a star, he was never out of work either. Movies, radio, TV, Jim Backus did them all.
Don't I buy everything you want?
He will live on The Late Show as James Dean's father in Rebel Without a Cause.
The ships are ground on the shore of Kiss.
And he will live on in rerun heaven as rich old Thurston Howell III on Gilligan's Island.
that makes 300,012 bananas that you owe me.
Off-screen, Jim Backus loved golf and he loved cocktails. And of Mr. Magoo, he once said, either they're drawing him to look more like me or I'm beginning to look like Magoo. No matter, both of them were very funny men indeed. David Browning, CBS News, Hollywood.
Same to you, yeah. These mountain people, they're taciturn, they're tight-lipped, dry humor, very wry, you know.
Hot tea all day doesn't stop this dentuera from hitting high C.
Hot tea? Fix-it and forget it.
Give up hot chocolate just because I started wearing dentures? Scamp!
Hot chocolate? Fixodent and forget it. Heat-resistant Fixodent spreads evenly to keep on fixing loose spots, no matter how often it gets hot.
I can drink hot coffee all day and still help a lady.
Heat-resistant. One more reason to use Fixodent and forget it.
There are vitamins you take because you feel you have to, and vitamins you take because you want to. Vitamins can be flaky, bumpy, crispy, crunchy, and taste so good. It's Kellogg's Product 19 with 100% vitamin nutrition. The only high-nutrition flake made with the wholesome goodness of 4 grains, including oats. Kellogg's Product 19. Flaky, bumpy, crispy, crunchy, tasty vitamins.
Today's Monday, coming off a rough weekend. Saturday, I painted the den and came up aching, so I took aspirin. Sunday, I cleaned the attic. More aches, more aspirin.
I take aspirin often when I need relief, and my aspirin's Bufferin.
Like Bear, Bufferin contains strong 100% aspirin.
So I get that aspirin relief I want.
And Bufferin has buffers to help protect against stomach upset plain aspirin can cause. Bufferin, if you take aspirin more than once a week.
Tomorrow we celebrate our country's 213th birthday. Seldom in a peacetime 4th of July have passions raged so freely in our great national drama. That's been assured by recent decisions from the Supreme Court. Those decisions touch on issues which are central to the deepest beliefs of many Americans: the flag, abortion, and religion. The divisions expressed in the court's votes reflect divisions felt by our people. However you feel about those decisions, they leave a good deal of disagreement and even anger. There is healing to be done and thinking to be done. These are great and grave issues. And on our national birthday tomorrow, millions of Americans will be thinking about those issues and debating them. Also, millions of Americans won't. For millions, the 4th of July marks conventional wisdom, saying teams leading the various baseball pennant races are likely to be ahead in October. For millions of other Americans, the 4th means a fireworks display, the beach, a swim, a sail, a concert, a movie, or a show. This is not to trivialize the Supreme Court's decisions. For beyond the great issues involved, they remind us once more that this oldest democracy is still being shaped and that no answers are final. So happy birthday to you amateurs, scholars of the Constitution. Happy birthday to you sports fans and moviegoers and swimmers. Happy birthday to Americans everywhere. And today in advance, happy birthday, America. That's tonight's CBS Evening News, live from the Supreme Court in Washington. Dan Rather. Good night.
Sullivan. Tomorrow, reaction to the Supreme Court's ruling on abortion. Also, we'll be celebrating the 4th of July all across this country on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.